but it is a basic political error to belittle the families of sailors and belittle sailors who are out on these boats for 12 months at a time, and we are unable to resupply them. Why? Because Pete Hegseth hid the fact that Iran destroyed the main resupply base that the United States has in the Gulf.
Well, we're back here again, basically talking about the same nonsense we were talking about before. Talking about your boy Hegseth over here. Lying. Not only is he a clown of the highest order of buffoonery and clown, he's also a liar. A liar. Buddy fucking liar. That's what he is. Check out this video real quick.
There are a couple different ways you could look at the war right now. You could accept the White House's version. Donald Trump insists that Iran wants a deal and that the U.S. controls the Strait of Hormuz. His son-in-law, Jared Kushner, says that negotiations with Iran are robust, and Trump is outright dismissing concerns about conditions on the USS Lincoln as fake news. On the other hand, you could choose not to accept the White House's version, which they are offering no facts to back up their views. Reports overnight say a ship was hit on the Strait of Hormuz, damaging the engine room and causing a crew casualty. The Wall Street Journal says American officials are worried Oman could help broker a nuclear deal that is more favorable to Tehran. That is on top of its reporting that Iran is looking to now expand the war, as Trump says Tehran should put up the white flag of surrender. And the Pentagon is now admitting that a Navy destroyer was without power for 4 days last month, leaving the crew without drinkable water, meals, running toilets, or air conditioning during that period of time. Joining me now to discuss, David Rode, MS Now senior national security reporter.
And we didn't hear anything about it. I mean, I guess it was on the news. We didn't hear about it from the White House.
And Peter Baker's still here. Okay, David, day after day, the president keeps saying things like the Strait of Hormuz, it's open, everything is great, the U.S. is in control. And now we have another ship hit overnight and a crew member dies.
It is not open. The Trump effort to reopen it has failed. And then the other strait here, this is how the war is widening, is in the Red Sea. There's fighting there. It's another Wall Street Journal story about traffic being slowed down there. 4 sailors were killed on a ship in the Red Sea last week. So the president's narrative, according to the sources I'm talking to, and just basic fact, is false.
Peter, right now Oman is negotiating with Iran over the strait. And in the midst of that, we talked about it yesterday, the president threatened to bomb the you-know-what out of Oman, a U.S. military ally, for almost 50 years. I don't know how else to look at this, but that the United States is trapped in this war, and everything the president is saying and doing just isn't rooted in fact.
Yeah, it's so striking. You're right to point that out. We've gotten so inured to a president who is willing to say and sometimes do almost anything that somehow we've lost the capacity for shock. But in fact, to sit there and just sort of randomly, almost cavalierly threaten war against a country with which we have friendly relations is in fact a striking moment, and it tells us something that he wants to be belligerent with the countries that have been friendly to us. At the same time, he's once again talking about how he has such great respect for Kim Jong-un and North Korea, and he wants to stop military exercises because it's so mean to North Korea, which, by the way, has something like 60 nuclear warheads compared to 0 right now in Iran. And
he wants to suspend the exercises because it costs money. It costs money. He's not making enough money. He needs more money for his ballroom. And the other part of that is we're running out of munitions. We're running out of munitions on a feckless war that we should be in the first place. So he's got to cut corners somewhere. So I guess it's readiness. strategic readiness in that part of the world. We'll take money from our strategic readiness fund and flush it down the drain because we're running out of shit. We're running out of bullets and missiles and shit. That's why he's floating the idea of using non-conventional warfare. And I don't mean in a electronic sense or in a spy sense or in a social media sense. He's been floating the idea of using nuclear weapons. Did you hear about the nuclear weapons testing? Did you hear about the nuclear weapons testing that he's proposing to restart? Which in turn, now all of these nuclear powers on the earth are saying, well, if you're going to do it, we're going to start doing testing too. Because they stopped doing live nuclear testing of weapons years ago. Now because this moron is thinking about using nuclear weapons on certain enemies, quote unquote, now we're spinning that up. You need money for that. So we'll take it away from readiness and we'll put it toward world annihilation. That's what we'll do. Stable leaders. We got stable leaders. And I don't fucking mean that.
He says the whole point of the Iran war was to stop them from getting a nuclear weapon. Well, on his watch and on President Biden's watch, North Korea has expanded its nuclear arsenal substantially without any kind of action or, consequence from the United States.
We now have the families of sailors on board the Lincoln furious that the president is dismissing their concerns about the conditions on the ship, saying it's fake news. And now we learned that a destroyer was without power for 4 days. What is the American public supposed to make of this?
Now, for those of you out there that got in my comments on that app talking about the sailor's responsibility, the sailor's responsibility, the sailor's responsibility, the ship is whatever the ship is based on what the sailors are doing. They're lazy. They're talking about the generation of sailors that we have, soldiers, whatever it is. Now you got the president of the United States blaming them for the administration shortfalls, for you hua ass high speed. Ain't no pushy. I ain't no pushy. They all pushes out there in the military today. Shut up. Shut up. Shut your cake hole. They're out here doing weird shit with the money and the logistics, keeping secrets and shit. And you guys are out here talking about when I was in the military, when I was a soldier, when I was a sailor. It's the sailor's responsibility to keep. Shut up. Shut up. You didn't take care of troops when you was in the service. That's what I'm seeing. Shut up.
The U.S. Navy is under tremendous strain that previous administrations maybe didn't build enough ships, to be fair. But this is just an unforced political error by President Trump. There's no need to belittle these
going
sailors.
to war?
Well, there's the strategic error, but the political...
Also an unforced political
Correct.
error.
And
Yes.
sorry, just on Oman, they're angry at the Omani foreign minister. I interviewed him right before the war started. He said the Iranians are willing to negotiate. And the administration rejected that advice. This was February 27th. I interviewed the Omani foreign minister. He was leading the talks. February 28th, President Trump chose to bomb. So that's why they're mad at Oman. But it is a basic political error to belittle the families of sailors and belittle sailors who are out on these boats for 12 months at a time. And we are unable to resupply them. Why? Because Pete Hegseth hid the fact that Iran destroyed the main resupply base that the United States has in the Gulf. He did not make that public in press conference after press conference, and that is, again, the way that they have mishandled this war. But just why would the president belittle our service members and their families? It just makes no sense to me politically.
I'm talking directly to these veterans that got up in my threads, that sat your happy asses up on the message board, running your rabbit ass mouths about the ineptitude of soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen. And you got your Department of Defense, because he's not a war secretary, because he doesn't do that well at all. Got your happy asses up in my message board talking trash about the enlisted. And this idiot is up here lying. Lying by omission. Your mother ever teach you about lying by omission? Your mother taught you about lying by omission? What my mom used to say? If you'll lie, you'll cheat. And if you cheat, you'll steal. And if you'll steal, you'll kill. My mama used to go way far left on that one. If you'll cheat, you'll kill. And we've lost soldiers, sailors, Marines. We've lost lives over this nonsense. Nonsense. You can't blame everything on the soldier, even if the soldier's attitude ain't right. Even if the soldier has a bad attitude. You take a soldier that has a iffy attitude about what he's got to do, what she's got to do, or whatever. She did something that most Americans won't do, and they signed up for that bullshit. So yeah, the complaining doesn't help, and we know those types of soldiers for sure. But a lot of those soldiers with the right guidance become great service members. With the right guidance, with the right leadership. Do you think in this present administration, with this present chain of command, that any of these soldiers are going to want to stay in, tell their buddies to join, tell their kids to join or whatever? No, they're not going to do it, because the leadership we have now, we have a bunch of flipping MAGA weirdos who don't give a damn about the military, who don't give a damn about soldiers, and would rather lie by omission. Information is key. Information makes missions successful. So now we got to rethink. Well, maybe the Abraham Lincoln didn't have a bunch of hippies and slack-jawed weirdos, as if you old school, that's what you call them. Bunch of limp dicks or whatever you want to call them. Maybe that wasn't the issue. Maybe it's because they didn't have the things they needed to do to have a successful mission, because something happened to their supply chain, to the logistics chain, in the way of something got blowed up. Something got blowed the fuck up for whatever reason, and they couldn't do their job. And the most transparent administration in the history of what? American history? In the history of American history? Didn't tell us. Not quite so transparent, right? And you NCOs, senior leaders, you're out here worried about whether or not soldiers are on TikTok. You're worried about whether or not these soldiers got beards. You're worried about whether or not the leadership is black or a woman. That's what you're worried about. That's what you're worried about? And you got leadership not telling the truth. Not telling the truth. You got the commander-in-chief talking trash about families. Families of our service members who give a shit about their kin. Give a shit about their husbands, their sons, their daughters, their wives, their grandchildren. You talking shit about them? This bone spur, orange piece of whatever. And Mr. Hair Process, too much hair process in the gym, frat boy. You out here lying by omission or just straight up lying. You're a liar. You're a liar. I said it in my last video, and I'm going to say it in this video. They need to be up out of there. Every single one of you veterans out there, and every single one of you enlisted active duty, if you're supporting this shit, you are the problem. And we are not better for this administration. This is the weakest this military has been. This is the weakest it's been since I've been alive. And I'm damn near 60. This is the weakest I've ever seen it. The weakest. And it ain't because of the individual soldiers. It's the leadership up at the Beltway and a couple of echelons down. Why? Because they replaced all of the experienced officers, 06s, 03s to on up, whatever it is. They've replaced them with a bunch of coffee jacking pogues. And if they did go to combat, they were buddy fuckers. A bunch of half-ass white supremacists that'll destroy our military because they don't want people of color or women who are more qualified to do the job. I'm sure the reason why we're having all the problems we're having right now is because there was a woman that was in a leadership position that's gone now, or there was a brother or a sister black that was in a position that's not there anymore, or some liberal officer who knew how to take care of troops ain't there no more. And now we got a bunch of white supremacists in our ranks, both federal civilian and in the active duty, who spend most of their time just hating on people and not worrying about whether or not every single soldier, sailor, marine, and airman got what they need. And based on their body of work, they are a bunch of liars. And don't think that you can't lie by omission. Not telling somebody something that they needed to know makes you a liar. And it affects readiness. And I'll be honest with you, we were not prepared or ready to go into conflict with anybody at this scale. Not at all. Not at all. And for the foreseeable future, we are still going to have the weakest military that this country has ever seen until we get these people up out of here. They need to retire, they need to resign, or they need to be voted out. 100%.